So, this word came from me by listening to an Oprah podcast, and this is how she lives her life. So, I figured if this is how Oprah lives her life by this word, putting it in place for 2023 for myself is probably a smart idea. So, drum roll,
You get a
please.
word, and you get a word,
Yeah.
and you get a word. Okay, go.
So, my word is
building a successful real estate career requires you to adapt, pivot, and constantly master new skills.
We're Katie and Daniel Steinfeld. We've built our own innovative brokerage, and in this podcast, we've assembled actionable tips and strategies that you can implement to take your business to its maximum potential.
It's time to level up. Level up. Level up.
Level up.
welcome.
What up, everybody? Happy New Year.
That was a good start to the podcast, us interrupting each other.
That's okay.
That's all right.
We've talked about the podcast and how we go on rants separately. Now let's just talk over each other nonstop. That'll be way more effective.
It sounds about right. All right. Happy New Year.
And to you and everyone out there in the Level Up verse.
That's right. Thank you for joining us for another episode. We are very excited to be here to get started on this year's season, shall we say. Should we make this season 2? Because we've never made it as past season 1.
Well, this would be season 3 if we were going annually,
I
guess.
know, but
Or
we've
season
never
4
called it.
even.
We've never even called it seasons. So I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah, whatever. I don't know. But I'm just happy that we're back. It's a new year. And we've been what, for 2-3 weeks. This is the longest Level Up hiatus we've ever had.
Yeah. Well, we had a couple of recaps, so really it's been only 1 week over the holidays, so it's not too bad.
I know, but we don't get to talk like we used to. We're back.
We're doing it now. And
Trust
we are
me,
back.
everybody. I haven't even seen her in 3 weeks.
But yeah, we're back. We're back with our word of the year for 2023, which is a very exciting episode, partly because I have no idea what your word is. And I'm always wondering, are you going to have the same word as me, or are we going to be on different tangents this year, or how is it going to work out? So
I'm not as nervous about having the same word as you since the first year. I think the first year we were very like, let's find that word that like represents everything. And we're on similar paths, but I think our mindsets are very different. And last year, for those of you who don't know what we're talking about with the word, this is kind of our response to a New Year's resolution, is picking a word that's going to be the theme of our year ahead. And I guess the focus was the word years ago, but this has become our focus, is whatever this word is becomes what we're focused on. In terms of, depending on the word, I was going to say in terms of like personal growth and stuff, but it might not be a personal growth related word necessarily.
It's true. It could be anything. You could say
like
poo.
I could say avocado. I could say poo. Maybe that should be my word. Man, you stole my, is that your word? Because I might switch.
No,
poo.
You could.
Poo
is all yours.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, if you set the expectations low enough, that word, if poo is guiding my year, I'm gonna do pretty well this year. So, all right. Yeah. So last year we've closed out and it's funny, right before we started recording, I listened to the episode because I didn't really remember what my word was. So I guess it didn't stick with me.
Yeah. Well, no, neither did I. I remembered my word 2 years ago, which was celebrate, which I really liked. But honestly speaking, I don't really think I celebrated as much as I wanted to. Actually, we were going into a pandemic, so I give myself that excuse as why I didn't celebrate.
Well, it's interesting. I think each of these last 2 years of words have been in the midst of a lot of crap, and we're still not out of, all the woods in terms of, crapville. So maybe poo is a good word. My word last year was forward, which was also kind of, it was about leaving what's in the past and what's been kind of anchoring what we do behind and just focus on all the great stuff going forward, which I mean, even though I didn't remember the word, I think this was a good year for that. And I think for you, for um, well, no,
Connection.
yeah, connection. Yeah, we hadn't
That
told
was
them,
my
had we?
word.
Yeah.
I haven't
I mean, I think you definitely have
connected.
grown there quite a bit. You've connected.
I've connected.
Like you did that,
Yeah.
whether or not you were following that as a word.
Yeah. I mean, this year, what I'm going to do is like, as you know, in my closet, which I'm actually sitting in front of right now, because this is, let's be real here. I'm on an ironing board and a Tupperware container right now as chair. So, like, as
Nice.
we go into this next year, look forward to us being a little bit more professional with this
You're
podcast. But
you're on a poker table right now. So you're on a
oh,
poker, well, this is on a poker table, and I'm in a way too low, shaky chair.
yeah,
Yeah, this isn't, but
that's okay.
we've
But we're
we've
real,
got
and I
artwork
like us
behind
being
us.
real. Yeah. But 2 years or a few years ago when we started, like almost like when we created like visions and vision boards for ourselves, I put up pictures in my closet, and I have found that to be super impactful just to remind myself of the goals I had, what I've accomplished so far. So definitely this year I'm going to put the word up in the closet, so that'll constantly remind me of what it is and what I'm working towards.
I'm laughing only if the word was poo. It would be funny to have that in big letters on your wall. That would remind
That's
you
true.
to stay regular
Yeah.
every time you go to your closet.
Eat your fiber.
Fiber's important.
That's
Anyway,
right.
okay, well, so yeah, maybe I'll do that too if I ever clean my closet enough to have wall space.
Yeah, or it's just somewhere, like even as a screen or like on your phone, like when you open it. Like, I don't know. I just find the more you remind yourself, the more it just helps. The more you see it, the more it actually comes to be. Whether you believe in that stuff or not, I do believe when you put stuff out there, it definitely comes back to you in good ways or bad ways if you put out bad stuff. But all about
Well,
karma and yeah,
I think
that
I
kind of
think
stuff.
this is more for anybody. You don't need to be like a spiritual softy to
No,
believe that just writing something down makes things effective, right?
yeah,
So this
yeah,
isn't having thoughts and reading tea leaves. This is putting a word out somewhere so we see it and remind ourselves what we're trying
this
to
is the
accomplish. It's the same as
direction.
our,
Yeah.
yeah, like our 12-week plan or and like all the things we do. It's more effective when we actually have it somewhere that we can look at and
Yeah,
remind ourselves. So,
exactly.
okay. You kicking it off this year, or do you have any more like words of wisdom, back
No,
looking
I have,
things?
I have no more words of wisdom. Yeah. Okay. You want me to say what my word is?
I mean, I'm trying to be a gentleman here. I'd like you to
Okay.
go first. And
I
if
don't
it's the
know why,
same
I
as
don't know why
mine,
I'm
I'll
nervous.
change on a dime.
Okay.
Well, this you shouldn't be nervous. It's only setting the entire course for your next 365 days. Don't be
No,
nervous.
no pressure. No pressure. Okay.
No one's listening.
So,
It's just you and me.
okay. So a little preamble to my word.
Don't be
Because
me.
no, well, okay. Well, I want to set the stage of why I've
Okay.
chosen this word. And I think this past year, and this is something kind of I came to realize as we were talking on our way to family over the holidays, but I'm the type of person that acts quickly and can be very consistent with something when I set my mind to it. However, I don't fully take the time to understand or set in place the reason why I'm doing something or like connect it back to something that I've set as a bigger goal for myself. So a great example of that has been my content and just putting out video content. And it's something that is always preached to us in real estate. And I think everywhere, we're always wanting to put ourselves out there and telling people what we know and entertaining people. And there's so many reasons for content. But I think I saw what a lot of people were doing, whether it was like funny skits or just, teaching people something or talking about a news article and that kind of thing. So I kind of jumped on several bandwagons, I think, and started doing it consistently. And I think there was good things that came from it because people in my social sphere got to know me a little bit better and under just kind of maybe it helped from like a branding perspective and that kind of thing as we try to grow the brokerage, but ultimately it wasn't connecting back clearly to any sort of goals that I have for myself. So this year, based on all of
I'm
that
so nervous.
learning,
I'm nervous
do you think our word is the same? I feel like our word is the same.
I don't think it's the same, but I think we're in a similar,
It's
we are
very
on a
okay.
similar chapter of the book. But
That's
I think
okay.
you're a little bit, different than me, which is fine.
Okay. So anyway, so this word came from me by listening to an Oprah podcast, and this is how she lives her life. So I figured if this is how Oprah lives her life by this word, putting it in place for 2023 for myself is probably a smart idea. So drum roll,
You get a
please.
word, and you get a word,
Yeah.
and you get a word. Okay, go.
So my word is intention. As you wipe your brow from the stress and the
It's a good
anxiety.
word. That's a good word.
Okay, and intention, I looked up a few definitions, but the one that really stood out to me is its intention is what is at the heart of every decision. And that is what I need for myself for this year. I need to have the heart behind the decisions I'm making so that it all connects to the greater goals that I have for myself for this year and for the vision of our entire lives. So that is the word.
So, no pressure.
No pressure. Thank you very much.
So with this word, I like the word, and you're welcome. I think this comes with it some work for you. I think that
100%.
in order to have the intention and implement this, it's almost like you need to build for yourself some sort of a system, whether it's like an evaluative tool every time you do something to determine what your intent is. Like, are you thinking you're going to go into this, figure out the goal and the intent, and then determine the tasks? Or is it when you think you want to do something, you're going to first ask yourself why? Or both?
It's going to be both. I think it's about slowing down the decision-making process. I jump into things very quickly, and it's good that I act quickly, but it lands me in a lot of trouble down the line when I realize that this is really not connecting back to anything, or it's not making sense. I, for the last few years, have been very frustrated with feeling like I'm not having a clear direction. And this, I think, is a reason why. It's just my personality is the type that jumps into action quickly. I think there's I don't think there's two types of people, but I think there's two camps where you're either paralyzed by ideas and not knowing how to move forward, so you don't do anything, or you just jump into something, but it really doesn't make sense to what it is that you're trying to do. And so I'm definitely that side of things, and I just need to slow things down.
It's very interesting. Like if I was a psychologist, because we are on, as most people know, we're on literally the same path. We're married, we're running a business together, our goals are aligned, we're trying to achieve similar things in different ways, but like we're not two completely different people. Like we have a lot in common. However, it is the nuance to how we get things done, how we look at things, that is almost a complete opposite, which is interesting. And we've talked about this too, because all the things you just said are different from how I look at things. And I think that's why our words are going to be very similar, but on opposite sides of the same argument. It's really like, this is like someone could have a field day disassembling what we're talking about and how we look at things. And hopefully, when I say my word and we talk about why, which is similar to your why, hopefully this is a benefit that allows us to more effectively work together to push the same outcome by using our different approaches in concert instead of like oil and water. I don't think they will be, though. I think it's honestly, it's very interesting. Anyway, I'll tell you my word in a minute, but yeah, it's very interesting. Like just now that I know yours, I feel like I've got extra knowledge that I'm now cliffhangering you a little bit. But I don't want to pull off. So did you want to talk more about intention?
No, I think I explained it.
You achieved what you wanted. Your intention was to tell me the word and explain why, and you did.
And I did. So I'm not going to move it. Well, yeah, no, I'm going to stop there. I think it's another conversation we had with this podcast, and this doesn't really have anything to do with intention, but it just, elaborating on things when you don't really need to, or talking, and not just in this podcast, but I think in general, like when I'm in board meetings, for example, is just feeling the need, like you have to add in a point when really it's not necessary. So I'm intending to be simple to the point and not overdo it, because I've explained it enough, I think.
Well, we also intended to make this episode not an hour long. So to those of you who are listening, you're past the halfway point already, I think.
Damn, and you haven't even said your word. All right, let's go.
It's good because, okay, so the preamble, I'll give a preamble too, and it's similar, but I have found that I approach things differently than you, which I just alluded to, where when there's things I want to get done, I don't jump in, I analyze a lot. And in some cases that keeps me from doing things I'd otherwise try, which maybe is good, maybe is bad, right? But it's because I've spent too much time focused, I think, on the before stuff, which is what you're now saying you need to focus on. Like, you're talking about intention, you're talking about your mindset prior to doing something, before you do something, right? Like when you talk about intention, it's like, what am I trying to do before I do it? I want to be sure I understand that.
Well, I think it's about being crystal clear about your goals, and every act that you take, does it connect to the goal that I ultimately have?
Right. But it's before you do the act, you're asking yourself that question.
Absolutely. Yeah. I need to do that.
That's, I think, the analysis paralysis I've lived in. That's kept me from doing things. And I haven't been that focused on what happens at the end, right? Like, I know, like, we set a goal, but I've never been like, I'm going to get there, I'm going to get there, I'm going to get there. It's always been about, what's the right path? What's the right way to do this? Let's not waste time doing it the wrong way, which in itself can have negative effects in an opposite way from how you've approached things, right? And in some cases, and we've talked about, like, in some cases, I'll sit there, same outcomes, saying, what am I doing here? You know, have I been wasting my time? Have I not been using my time effectively? What was my purpose? Like, all these things, like, we're still focused on goals, but I haven't been thinking about, is the stuff I'm doing working? It's, should I be doing that or should I be doing this? That's been my approach all the time. So my word, and there's a lot of different roots to it, and I don't know which way. Like, I know you could have gone intent or intention. This one doesn't really work the same way, and I've kind of flip-flopped. I'm just going to make it the shortest version of the word, which is effect. Effect.
Nice. Effect.
As in cause and effect. With an E. Not effect, not affect.
Affect.
And so this is like effect in terms of the root of effective and things like that.
Okay.
And this ties into, we talked about words like purpose, and we've talked about goal and focus and all these things. But to me, I want to be focused on not just getting an outcome, but working towards and understanding what's coming from what I'm doing, not what I should be doing to get somewhere else. It's a subtle difference, but you're kind of focused on, like I said, like evaluating things before to make sure you're getting where you want to go. For me, it's going to be, I need to start doing more focused on where I'm headed. Like, so looking at, is this similar to intent? Is this achieving the intended effect that I want? Not just is it getting a number or a goal, but I think for me, it's more about, how am I trying to, it's sort of a synonym of impact. I threw around the word impact because I'm really big on doing things that matter. I don't just want to do things because it's part of the schedule and it's part of, this is the routine, and we've got to record this, and I've got to do this bank rec, and I've got to do this training session. It's got to be done because of what it's doing and what it's impacting around it, right? I don't get fulfilled by achieving things and moving on. I like to leave a lasting effect. it's like the same as like the sum of the parts is equal to greater than, 1 + 1 = 3 kind of thing. I want to put
Well,
something out there that's going to resonate
yeah.
and leave something with the people it resonates with so that they can grow. And so that, because I'm really big on, and we've talked about this too, like we like to teach and we like to train and I like to interact and connect with people, even though connection was your word last year. For me, it's about making sure that there is an impact. So it's not the same as a goal. To me, the effect is more of like, what is the lasting value of the things that I'm doing?
So, question, because effect, like you can only control what you put out there and what your effect is. So do you mean for yourself? Because my only thought is that you don't want to tie it to how other people interpret your effect, right? Like that's
no. This isn't about I'm not going to be fulfilled if people don't take in my stuff and turn it into other things. Like you're right. I can only control what I can control. But I think if you look at it from like cause and effect as like a chain, I've been very focused on cause and making sure that things just get done to keep moving. And so for me, the effect on me is fulfillment for myself.
Right.
I want to make sure that when I do something, I feel good. It's what we talk about all the time, going to bed at the end of the day and saying, this was a good day. I achieved things that move our goals, relationships, connections, whatever forward. And that end of the day needs to be my focus instead of the beginning of the day only, of just like, well, what am I going to do? Okay, I'm not so sure. I don't really know. And then like I found for me, disappointment has come from inactivity. Even though I'm still doing things, it's been, like I said, the opposite of you. Like it's been, I don't just do a million things and then try to figure out, was that, why am I doing it or whatever. I just say, well, I don't really know why I'm doing this, so I'm just not going to do it. And I'll do the things I have to do. So for me, I think we both need to come back to the middle from where we've been. I think like, I don't think I'm not going to turn into just do a bunch of shit.
Right. And I'm not gonna like make sure like I get paralyzed by analyzing the reasons. Like, you're right. Cause like both of those words can create opposite negative unintended consequences. So it's good to be aware of that and just making sure that you only take it so far. But I like
that's it. Sorry, go ahead.
I like the effect part because like hopefully through that you're enjoying the activities that you're doing. And really that's what's most important. Like it's not about achieving the goal. It's about really enjoying the process. And for you, if you can find the activities that you enjoy doing while also having an impact or an effect, that will get you to your goal. But it's not going to be so much focused on that. It's going to be the process. And that's what we all have to really get behind, is enjoying the process. Because once you hit the goal, it's really like, meh, okay, moving on. Like there's never like a goal that you hit that you're like, okay, now I've achieved it all. It's always, there's going to be more. So you got to enjoy the process, Well,
I think a lot about when I was with the football team. And you work at a football team or you play on a team or whatever to win a championship. A lot of people do. Like you're there, it's a job, you're making money. But like we won the biggest game on the biggest stage. Everything was fairy tale, and then it was over. And I was kind of like, still didn't dislike anything, but it's like, wow, what's left now? Like that's what I was working towards. And it was a finite finish.
Right.
That doesn't feel like there's a lot of goals that are left to excite me anymore. Right. And so it isn't just about like all the accolades and the trophies and the whatever and the money and the things that we want to get are still part of the plan. This doesn't change the plan, but the way that I want to live my life and the way that you want to move forward with the way you do things, that's what these words are about. And You made like a good point too, which is every word, no matter what word anybody chooses, when they're in kind of this manner of thinking of just something related to the way we're going to live, there's always an extreme that's
Mhm.
not good. Every
Yeah.
word, right? And I think back to other words we've had, like even words like focus. If you focus too much,
Connection.
that's
If you
connection. If you
connect too
connect, like,
much.
well, no, but we've
But
talked
if you
about that, like
connect,
with
yeah,
networkers.
yeah.
Yeah, like if you
If you
just
can,
spend your time saying, I'm going to keep talking to people, but then you realize you got nowhere because all you've been doing is connecting with no
yeah,
meaning
real,
to it.
yeah, exactly.
It's the danger of, I guess, self-diagnosing your word, that you're not doing it to give yourself a seismic shift, just to
Yeah,
identify areas that you want to improve and kind of tweak
yeah,
to enjoy your life more.
yeah. So maybe that's a good piece of advice for everybody that has chosen a word is find a definition that really explains the word so that you can kind of come back to it in those moments where you feel like maybe you're living with intention, for example, but it's not feeling like it's making a difference. So, reminding yourself what that definition is sometimes is important because most words can mean different things. And sometimes we can go off on a tangent another way and not realize it. So, yeah, those are good words.
Yes, man. Yeah. It's funny. I think last year we had a similar conversation where like there have been a lot of other words. Like there's definitely like silver and bronze medalists, and we can't say them now because it clouds things. But yeah, I was this came together too when we were talking to each other for me,
Yeah.
where I understood what I haven't been doing that I'd like to be doing. Like
Mhm.
I think that's for those of you who haven't picked a word, it might be something that's continuing with what you're doing and all that, and that's great. But I found for me, you have like a realization at some
Mhm.
point of a missing piece, whatever it is, big or small, and that helps guide the way that I can choose a word. The same way if you do New Year's resolutions, like it's the same idea, what's
Yeah.
missing, but a word makes things a lot more simple and focused.
Yeah. Gives you direction.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to guide you.
Yeah. Yeah. It takes some time to know yourself in all ways, and take your ego out of it because a lot of times, like from my perspective, when you're putting things out on social media, like your ego gets involved so much because you start focusing on the likes and the comments and when people say, oh, I love that, you're so good at this, and it's just like, it's great. It's even like celebrities, right? Like you wonder why celebrities, some of them just get so depressed and like, just take things really badly because like they've hit a huge goal, but they're still not satisfied because you're never really satisfied ultimately with the goal. It's the process and what you are doing day to day. Like, is it something that you truly enjoy? So I think that effect thing is really important to keep in mind, and really having a clear understanding about why you're doing what you're doing,
Right.
because you can get so clouded with the actions of what other people are doing or seeing what others are doing online or offline, and you think you need to emulate that to get the success that you think you're seeing out there. But it really comes down to you. What has worked for you this year? And that's part of our annual planning is what has worked, what hasn't worked, like being really honest with yourself about what hasn't worked and start from there and identify where you want to go.
Yeah. And like you said, it starts with just you. All
Mm-hmm.
of this stuff gets clouded when you bring others, and whether it's emulating what you see or whether it's depending on the response of others
Yeah.
to feed your
Ego.
happiness, right? Like that's
Yeah.
what you were talking about with effect. Like if for me, if the effect I'm looking for is people are going to respond to me and take things a certain way, I'm setting myself up for failure because I can't control
Yeah.
what other people do. But if the
Yeah.
effect is just how I operate
Mm-hmm.
and what makes me happy myself, regardless of what's out there,
Yeah.
we've seen it. We do a lot of stuff out there that we don't realize people see. And here and there, like it makes me feel great when someone says, I heard that thing or I saw that thing. I didn't need them to comment or like a thing on social media, right? It's just knowing that it's impacting people silently is great, but I don't need the validation necessarily to keep me doing it, or we'll go insane.
Yeah. Exactly.
So, but please like and comment and subscribe to this podcast as always. Share with a friend.
And let us know what your word is. If you go to Instagram at Level Up for Realtors, you can share with us where we are on that chat, and happy to hear about what your words are. It'd be interesting to hear, because I know there's always so many great words out there. And I'm always just like, oh, that's so good. So yeah.
It's true.
So anyway.
All right. Did we do it? Did we stay within a half hour? I don't have a timer anywhere. I don't think we did. But
we went a little bit over, but that's okay.
Are you actually timing this thing?
I'm not timing it. I just have an eye on the clock and where we are at. So
it's a good way to tell time. An eye on the clock. All right. Well, Happy New Year to everybody.
That's right. It'll be a good year for all.
Let's deliver on our words with intention and a positive effect.
All right. See you next week.
Bye-bye.
Boy.
Level up, level up.